right, okay, let's get started. Hi, everybody, and welcome back for day 2 of Offset. My name is Ryan Selvy, and I'm taking over the stream for this week until Thursday. If you didn't catch any of the streams yesterday, we had 2 awesome artists on. We're having 2 more awesome artists on today. We're having Alex Krokus, which I'm very excited about, and we're having Jenna Loeb right after this. This is a live stream, but if you're watching the replay, thanks for watching. I'm hoping I can make this as rewatchable as possible. We're going to be doing a podcast style late night show kind of vibe of interviewing with questions and answers with Alex and going through his work and his inspiration and his motivations. You get to see his process. You get to hear from him directly about his work. And if you've never heard of him before, hopefully you get to find a new artist. If you have heard of him, hopefully you get to learn more about him than you would otherwise. Thank you for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. Hello to everyone that's in the chat, both on Behance and on YouTube. Hello to Oliver, Annika, Sean, Anthony, Penny, Michaela, Muhammad. Thank you guys for being here. Means a lot. And also, yeah, if you're over on YouTube, make sure you hop on over to Behance. That's where most of the conversation is going to be happening. I'll be pulling questions and comments from the chat and asking them over to Alex and redirecting them. So if you have questions, you have comments, please, I want to make this as interactive as possible. Hop on in and say hello. Let us know where you're watching from and if you have any questions. So without any further ado, that's enough of me. The show today is not about me, but it's going to be about Alex. He's a wonderful comic artist, and I'm a big fan of his work. If you guys know anything about me, I'm a big cartoons, comics guy, so I always like having the excuse to bring someone on and get to actually talk to someone that I'm a big fan of. So I got the opportunity to reach out to Alex, and we have Alex. So without any further ado, please welcome Alex. Hey, Alex, how's it going?
Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You are pretty much my first, like, quote unquote meeting of the day. So this is a good way to start the day, even though it's noon, I guess.
We can talk a little slower in the beginning.
Yeah, and I also have my coffee, so it's okay. We're good.
Oh, nice.
For anyone who is not familiar with you or your work, do you want to just give yourself a little elevator pitch as to what you're all about?
Sure. My name's Alex Krokus. I'm a cartoonist who works in comics and animation and arts education. And I make work that is in both of those mediums and is usually playing around with the space in between. And that's the pitch. Find me.
No, perfect. Well said. I think that you're in a really interesting place too, because basically webcomics and cartoons have all kind of entered this new area of the in-between of, like, you think of newspaper comics, but then you also have this new wave of a way that you're presenting it too in a public forum, kind of like stand-up comedy or performance. And then you also obviously have your regular comics that you upload and create for just kind of like pumping them out. But have you always been really interested in making comics? Have you always been really interested in cartoons?
I'd say so. I think that, I'm sure a lot of people you have on the show say something similar to this, in that I was drawing since I was really young, and I drew comics a lot when I was a child and a preteen. I really loved Calvin and Hobbes. I really love the early Simpsons, and I definitely think I tried to subconsciously emulate that.
Right.
When I became a teenager, I didn't draw comics as much, and I went to art school, and during that time, I didn't really do it either. And it was only when I graduated and I was inarguably an adult is when I rediscovered how much I love comics and cartooning and how comfortable that language is for me. So when I picked it up again, I didn't really stop. And here I am on the stream So
talking about comics.
yeah, I think
So you
going
also
pretty
do
well, I think.
some animation as well. I guess for everyone's reference, we could probably go ahead and we can hop into our first segment of the day, which is let's look at your work, where we can pull up some of your work and kind of talk through both your inspiration and also just give the people an idea of the stuff that you create. Let's look at your work. So we're going to start off with actually a pretty recent one, which I really related to. And I guess people can kind of just read it for themselves too. But you have a guy that's all bloodied up. Now, that wasn't so bad, was it? And of course, he turns it to have him tip, which is pretty... also awkward because I never feel good about hitting the lowest number, but sometimes they even have the number be like, they'll flip it around and it'll be like, would you like to tip 30% at the least? And you're like, okay, cool, sweet.
I bet that works. People are so prone to influence that if you tell people to tip 30%, they probably would.
Yeah, no, I'm not above it. I'm gonna say, sometimes I am just like guilted into it. I'm like, oh, I guess this is what we're doing. But I have your Instagram pulled up. You have some really great stuff. This one also recently resonated with me. It's a guy waking somebody up and saying, "Hey man, sorry to wake you. Do you think you could play some music for me?" I think so. Thanks. It's my 10-year-old laptop. And then he's happily cooking as he's just kind of doing his thing. Do you feel like most of your work comes from direct personal experiences, or are they kind of things that you kind of just whip up and kind of present?
I think they're 50-50. My 10-year-old laptop one is definitely a slice of my life. As the caption says, I just celebrated my laptop's 10th birthday and I wanted to commemorate it somehow. The dentist one, though, is not my experience. And something I found really interesting is that all of the Europeans and the international people who read my stuff were very confused by it because, they know that American life is stupid in a lot of ways. And they were totally willing to believe that, yes, it is customary to tip your dentist here. And
I mean...
for those watching internationally, it's not yet. It's not yet.
Yeah.
And the gag is that it's ludicrous to tip your dentist, but things kind of feel like they're going in that direction. So a lot of people thought that was my experience and there wasn't any joke to this. This was just me like sharing my life with people.
Right.
So I think often it's viewed as I am just doing like 100% auto bio all the time. Yeah. And the times I don't, confuse people a little bit.
Yeah, and I want to get to that in just a second too, about kind of this idea of using comics or sequential art in a means of kind of journaling in a way. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really interesting. You have these little metropolitan critters that I imagine are somewhat like, I guess when it's kind of the raccoon, I kind of always assume that's something that's similar to you. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about that in a second. Let's look at one more real quick, which we have, ha ha ha, I just want to strangle someone. Everyone laughs it up, including your little cast of characters that you regularly have. And then there is Comedy Snake arrested for strangling someone, and they all look very upset. And now, since this one includes your characters of people, were you at a comedy show and this kind of came to light, or is this?
I think this is more of a symbol of sorts. Like this is about being a fan of someone who says or has like obscene content in their work, and you find it funny because it's fictional, and then the news gets out that this actually wasn't fictional at all, and this is just someone sharing vignettes from their life, and it's disturbing and surprising, but there's no reason it should be.
Right.
I don't think anyone is really like, I might be incriminating myself for later, but I don't think anyone is fully writing fiction when they're making work. There's always like a little piece of themselves in it. So
I'm saying that's opened yourself to a lot of criticism with some really weird comics that you've created.
yeah, I think I might be setting the chat aflame prematurely.
Yeah,
But,
right.
we'll find out.
And then outside of also these comics too, you also were kind enough to send over this short animation that you have made, because you also dabble in some animation. And so I was just going to go ahead. I'm going to cue that up, and we can watch that. It's about 3 minutes long. I think that should be fine with everyone to watch, as long as everyone's cool with it. But let's check that out. And I just got to make sure that I have the audio shared. But if you want, you can also take a break to breathe as well. I'll take you off camera as well. So.
No, I love this show.
All right, here we go.
Is it recording? I'm being recorded, right? Hey, how you doing? I'm Anthony the Pelicano. I'm 38 years old. I've been living in this neighborhood for 8 years. Same apartment. You know, it's good enough. There's a bathroom over there. You need to use the bathroom? Well, it's over there if you do. Don't flush, though. What do I do for work? Like, a job? I don't got no job. I used to work for the MTA, but I hurt my knee on the clock, and doctor said it was compound fracture. I don't know. Well, you know, it is what it is, and now workers' comp, and I get sent a check every 2 weeks. It's enough to get by. I don't buy many things, you know. I got a lot of free time, though. You ever seen that movie Goodfellas? That's a good movie. Oh, my routine? First, I buy eggs. I start every morning with a fried egg on toast. You know, unless I don't. Sometimes I don't. Then I go to the supermarket. That guy at the deli, we get along great. We ask each other how the other's doing, how's it going. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, hey, buddy. This deli has the greatest egg salad sandwich. You gotta have it with the sliced tomato. But you know, you gotta ask him to slice it really thin. That's the secret right there. The secret is you gotta slice it thin. You know, you don't want it too thick. It messes up the whole scenario. Thin sliced tomato. And then, you know, the doctor says I should try to be a little bit more active. I go to the dog park across the street, and I sit over there. You know, I eat my lunch, I throw out my trash, and then I just, you know, sit on the bench, look around for a while. You like dogs? I like dogs. There was this one lady at the dog park. I mean, she was beautiful. I thought, look at that. A beautiful person with a beautiful dog. Look at how happy she looks. How could you not be happy too? Come on. I go to that dog park every day now to walk Mike. This is Mike. He's a good boy. Who's a good boy? I never saw that lady again, but there's other people there, and it's really helped me talk to folks that I would have never talked to before. You ever seen that movie Goodfellas? That's a good movie.
I've never seen it.
Oh no, I've never seen it. I saw it in a bar one time. It was like, there wasn't no sound though. You know, you learn a lot about people if you just sit and listen to them talk. This city's got a lot of people. A lot of freaking people. I sit on that bench over there by the trash can. I eat my garbage. Yeah, eat my garbage. I sit over by the trash and I eat garbage out of it.
Well done, well done. I wish I had like a little noise where I could make some clapping for it, but that was fantastic.
Thanks, man.
That was obviously a quarantine production, you said, and it's has a little bit of some anthropomorphic calls. Like I saw the passed out guy on the subway looks like one of your kind of regulars.
Mm-hmm.
But what inspired that piece, and kind of how did that come to be?
For that one, I guess like the initial inspiration was like I just wanted to make a short film with my friends. It was quarantine. We all had access to infinite free time, and I guess we were talking about it like before quarantine, but my buddy James like wanted to be a voice actor for something, and I was like, oh well, this is a fun opportunity for like a little project. So I just like wrote like a little script on my phone, handed it to him, and we went to our buddy John's place, and he read the script. We did a few takes, and I made an animatic for it, which is just like doing loose drawings as a storyboard and timing it to the audio. And our buddy John Fio liked it. It was like, yo, can I make music for this? And then our friend Sia File saw it, and they said like, oh, I would love to make backgrounds for this. And it kind of just became like this fun little community project because we just wanted to like collaborate and make something. And it became this nice little, this nice little baby that we're all very proud of.
Congratulations on the baby. Have you ever seen Goodfellas before?
I have.
Okay, so you have. Right.
I saw it afterwards.
Did you really? You didn't want to relate too much to your main character. Now, was there any sort of process to picking the different animals that you have as main characters, or do you just kind of throw like a pin at a random animal collector?
I think half the time it's a vibe that like I'm not thinking too much about, and then the other half is maybe sometimes informed by conversation,
right, with
the person. If they have a fave, maybe I'll draw them as their favorite animal, unless I really don't think that they're their fave. Then they're getting something else.
Now, what's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal, I guess, like the easy answer is a raccoon, because I draw myself as one in this comic, or that's like my avatar of sorts. I also really like giraffes. I loved them in high school, so I know a lot about them.
But do you ever draw giraffes? I don't know if I see many giraffes in any.
I don't have any friends or person who I draw as a giraffe character, but I put giraffes in the crowd often because they add some visual diversity to the crowd, because it makes the shape of the audience more interesting. You have this long neck sticking out. I use swans for the same reason.
Oh yeah, just so that they have that long neck.
Yeah, kind of I might be sharing too much about how the sausage is made.
Right.
I don't know if this is interesting or not.
No, so we love to see how the sausage is made, which actually is a really great transition into our next segment, which is what's in your sketchbook.
Oh,
what's in your sketchbook?
So not every artist keeps a sketchbook. That's a physical sketchbook, obviously. But what's in your sketchbook is kind of just a time where we can go and we can take a peek behind the curtain and see how the sausage is made. Mm-hmm. I know that you said that you scanned up a few different pieces of your own personal sketchbook. Do you normally carry a sketchbook with you? Do you kind of reserve it to time in like a journalistic sense? When do you go to your sketchbook?
My relationship with my sketchbook has changed a lot over the past couple of years, because I think I got into making 4-panel comics when I would just draw them willy-nilly in my sketchbook and like not be too precious with it, not really care. And I think that loosened me up a lot. It made me more comfortable with posting often, right, because I didn't really feel like every comic was like a representation of like everything that I'm capable of.
Right.
It was just like, oh, well, if this one doesn't do well, whatever, I'll post like a new one in a couple days, or like maybe even tomorrow. I think my sketchbook several years ago when I started making comics freed me a lot, made me feel like it doesn't matter too much. And that loosened me up. It got to a point though where my sketchbook kind of just became exclusively comics, because I started taking it more seriously, and I would do 4-panel comics in like a hardbound black sketchbook, like the classic one, and I love them as objects. Like they're very sentimental to me, obviously, but I think I stopped having fun in my sketchbooks. I stopped experimenting.
Right.
And especially when I kind of pivoted from a hardbound sketchbook to a spiral bound one that I can rip the pages out of and actually scan
Okay.
gracefully. So now I just have like folders of like more polished comic pages since I started taking it more seriously. And I kind of missed having a sketchbook that I can just screw around in.
Yeah.
So
would that be like a Moleskine for the most part? Because then you wouldn't like rip things out, or do you have a preference actually of a brand, or does it just has to be paper?
What is it called? Let me grab it.
Now, the cool thing about Alex is I actually first saw his work, I think online, but he also does these very personal, like in-person kind of presentations as well. And the funny thing about Alex is I first saw him present, I think in February of 2020 at this really cool Brooklyn presentation of art called Big Milk. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But a little bit later in today's show, Alex is actually going to give us a presentation of some of his work, which is really cool. And you guys get to see that. But I just thought that was an interesting piece of trivia. I was like, oh, this is cool. I want to come here all the time. And then like a month later, we were all just locked inside.
Yeah, it was the last good month.
Yeah, right?
So the
cool,
brand,
yeah. So what's the sketchbook?
Yeah, the brand that I use is called, this is probably reversed, but Art Alternatives.
Cool.
This is like, I think like the store brand for artists and craftsmen supply, which is like a worker-owned chain of artist or art supply stores that I pretty much exclusively go to.
Do they have those in New York? I remember them in Baltimore, but I don't know if I've ever seen one in New York.
There are two in New York. There's one in Williamsburg, and there's one on the Bushwick Bed-Stuy border on Broadway.
So it's all in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's all in
That
Brooklyn. They have like a web store, so like they can, I think, deliver to anywhere.
Yeah.
But I just like, I've grown to be comfortable with the weight of the paper and like the tooth to it, and I think when it comes to comics, I don't experiment as much anymore with my medium.
Right.
But that's what I use for making comics. But I think when I wanted to embrace the sketchbook again, I went to Artists and Craftsmen again, and I just wanted like a thin journal that I wouldn't be too precious with.
Right.
And this one is interesting because it's got 1/3 of it is lined paper, 1/3 of it is grid paper, and 1/3 of it is blank. So it's just more reinforcement that I can't care too much. Right. And I think that's like what I needed. I have some scans of it that I can present.
If you're willing to share.
Yeah.
It's interesting also to hear that you are kind of balancing this idea of the structure to the paper with the lines or without lines. I tend to gravitate towards no lines, but I do think that it would be nice to get a gridded sketchbook at some point.
I definitely think no lines is the nicest, but I think I just like being forced to switch it up.
Absolutely.
Can I show from a Finder window? Oh, I can.
Yeah, you should be able to just share window.
That's so sick. All right. Can you see?
I can see your files, but I cannot see them actually open.
Can you see my preview?
No.
Ah, okay. It's still sick, but not as sick as I wanted. All right. Let me pick it up a bit. I can open them in a preview and do that.
Now, it's interesting to hear when you're saying that you represent certain characters as different animals. Do you stay canon to that? Like, will the same friend always be the same animal?
Typically, yes. Some have told me, Alex, I really don't want to be a mouse. And I will respect their wishes because I love them. But I don't always.
By the way, A Horse Who Can Drive, which is a hilarious name, over on YouTube says, I love Big Milk. So apparently someone, I don't know if that means anything to you. A horse that can
A Horse
drive.
Who Can Drive has amazing taste. That was the presentation that you were talking about earlier.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Where is it? Okay.
So
Can
wow,
you-
this is great. So you use more than just a pen. You're going in there with like a brush or is that a marker?
Yeah. Sometimes I will use like ink wash if I know that I'm going to be sitting somewhere for more than, I don't know, like 20 minutes. Sometimes I do some journaling or recording thoughts. This one isn't anything super personal. It's just about how it was hot in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will do like observational drawings of friends, just like when they're chilling. This is Jay on his phone. This is Jackie in this.
Oh wait, can we pause on this one real quick? This is beautiful. I love how you approach the water with just kind of quick little strokes here.
Thanks.
And then also how the body just kind of submerges into the water and disappears. That's very cool.
Thanks. This is a time where I wish that my paper was thicker because like then I could do more with the wash, but it's kind of a sacrifice or a compromise because the paper being thin means that I'm not precious.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to always not care too much.
I mean, that's tough though. I mean, it's like obviously you kind of want everything to create to end up being something that can have a longer life. But at the same time, yeah, there's something to be said about just having fleeting thoughts that can kind of go on the paper and then exist, you know, in your sketchbook.
Yeah, because I think I'm definitely more of a quantity over quality person. Like I just want to get as many ideas out there and execute them gracefully. So like some like don't have a wash and it's just like a few lines trying to imply as much information with as few strokes as possible. Yeah, this was on my buddy Becca's farm outside of Olympia, Washington. And sometimes if we're hanging out while I'm drawing, I'll like record our conversation. And this is a drawing of the orchard that they have planted. And there were a bunch of CDs just like hanging from different trees. And they're apparently used to scare crows away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I just wrote down our conversation because it helped me remember it. And if I didn't write that, I definitely wouldn't have remembered the conversation. So I'm glad that I did.
Perfect.
This is my girlfriend Angie making what was it? Mediterranean couscous salad. She was squeezing lemon and she just chopped the cherry tomatoes and it was quite good. Very refreshing in the summer. I recommend it.
This is now a cooking show.
Yeah.
So we plan to see you make that in the next hour or so.
I'm pretty close to a supermarket, so I can make it happen. This is
also Zach Bickle just entered the chat. Hello to Zach Bickle.
Zach, what up? This is just like a drawing for my window. That's a sticker that I got from Daniel Zender. Sometimes I do collage because it looks cool.
And then what's the writing over there on the side? Is that just kind of like another journalistic thing? Does that relate to the drawing at all?
Totally unrelated. That was me. Actually, I mentioned. Let's keep moving.
Right on. Color. We never see color with your sketches, I feel like.
Yeah, this is something that I've been trying over the past year. I'm just trying to get better with color. You see it in my recent comics. This was at a beach house that Angie's family rented last year. Just trying to get better.
And also just as far as the composition goes, it's nice to see all the negative space that you have towards the top, just not really including anything else, just giving space for the house to breathe, which is nice.
Thanks. Once again, this is another example of wishing that the paper was thicker because you can kind of see that it gets it's at its breaking point at the top and it can't hold anything anymore. but it's we make do.
Yeah, and I know that when we were discussing your animation earlier, you were talking about how a friend of yours did the backgrounds. If we'll look back at some of your drawings again, you do, I guess, like medium ground. I feel like a lot of times once it goes too far in the back, it's like too much information, so you don't even need it for a webcomic.
Yeah.
But how would you ever feel about, like, if this was stronger paper? Would you ever consider taking those and maybe making them as the backdrop to your comics? It's okay to say no.
Yeah,
I'm just
probably not.
Probably not.
I think that the only reason that I can keep up with my output is because I'm not being precious.
Right.
I'm working on a book now that's going to be published, and for those I will probably be a little bit more precious. But sometimes for social media, you can only give so much.
You can only give so much. That absolutely makes sense.
I got one more sketchbook scan. This is a spread. I thought I'd include it because it's I don't know. I'm messing around with format a little bit. I've got some friends who live in LA that are all about like plein air painting. Kellen Jett puts together a show, I think somewhat frequently, called Sitting Outside, which is required for plein air painting. And when he comes to New York, he just wants to find like good places to sit and paint. So I took him to Dumbo, which I think is like one of the most visually dynamic neighborhoods in the city. You got like bridges overhead, you got cobblestone streets, you have Manhattan across the water, so there's a lot to look at. And in the face of all that, I just drew a tree.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, it's interesting that through all that, I mean, they have great parks over there too. So, I would just never look at this and say, "Oh, that's Dumbo," you know?
Yeah, no. Sometimes you're not in charge of what inspires you, and
right.
You could be in front of a beautiful mountainscape, and a shrub is what catches your eye. It's interesting how things work like that.
And once again, kind of similar to the water here, I like how you're coming and going with what's important, of like which leaves you want to show, and the rest are kind of just represented by these splotches. Specifically, I think down on the right with the bush that's a little bit farther away, just enough to let us know that it's another bush there, but not so much to take away from the one that's in the foreground.
Oh yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. That's what I was going for.
Well, it worked. There you go. Steve says, nice. It's Japanese style. So I suppose you kind of have some crossover there as well. Umacorn says she likes this illustration. And then also A Horse Who Can Drive mentioned that they loved the beach house drawing, just to call that out as well.
Thanks.
I know that you spoke a little bit earlier about how you're starting to play with color. There was one that recently came across my feed that I really related to. I went to Mocha recently in Manhattan.
Oh, nice.
And it was funny. I actually kind of heard this conversation with someone else because it's like, love your work. How much is for a zine? $5. And then you kind of have this very simple scenario of like the color telling us that it's still the same person. And love your work. How much is zine? $5. And I think it's been said that the same $5 has been circulating in the comics community for generations now.
It's all true.
Did you recently do a show with an artist alley?
Last show I did. I haven't done a convention since COVID.
Oh, okay. So where did that come from? Did you attend one?
Yeah, I go to shows. Sometimes people will like recognize me and like come up to me and like offer me a zine.
Mm-hmm.
Or like ask if I do trades or anything.
Right.
And I did lots of conventions before COVID, so I'm very familiar with this conversation and this language. I'll do SPX
cool.
in the fall. But
yeah, down in like DC area, right?
Yeah. Actually, speaking of Big Milk, they did an expo in New York City, I think late 2021, which was like the first comics event that happened after quarantine, and I did do that one, and the vibe was similar. People are down to trade. People I don't know, sometimes make their work affordable to like anyone can get it. So that was a smaller convention. That definitely felt like one for just like the Brooklyn comic scene. But it's all very similar. Like larger indie comics events like TCAF or MoCA, like you recommended, will always have people who are down to trade, people who are just like getting started and just want to get their work out there, and that's usually when these conversations happen.
Yeah, it's no Comic-Con or anything. It's not to that same caliber of like, giant corporations with tables and stuff. It's more of like that Brooklyn community vibe. To that point, I know that with the comics community and Big Milk and Brooklyn, what have you, that's where you do a lot of your presentations with your performance. I know that you prepared somewhat of a performance that you could do today. Do you want to cue that up?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
So I will go ahead. I know you sent over some saloon music, so I can switch on over to the vibe. Also, if you need another minute, we can also take a break as well.
Let me just pull this up and I will be ready.
All right, cool. Actually, in the meantime, then, while you're pulling that up and you're figuring that out, we can do a little second for some monkey paws. So monkey paws, for those that are unfamiliar, are a series of hand exercises that were taught to me from Anna Davis Court. She is another streamer that streams on both Behance and Twitch, sometimes Adobe Live. And basically she just walks through these 4 quick exercises that help you keep your arms and hands nice and limber so that you don't hurt them too bad and you can continue to do your work, because right now we can't connect our brain to, Photoshop yet. So if you're watching at home, just take some time, loosen up a little bit, and I'll walk you through these real quick. What you're going to do, so you're just going to reach towards your computer screen, and you're going to bring it in like this. Ooh, You'll be able to feel it just a little bit. Oliver's already ahead of me saying ooh, same with Clever. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. As you can see, the sounds are very important. Make it work or don't work. Also, you can see illustrations are by Anna Davis Court. So exercise number 1, we're going to go like this. Release, and you go down like here, bring it in. For this one, I always kind of feel it up my wrist. If you hurt at all, please stop. I'm not a medical professional. Don't hurt yourself. Don't sue me. Bring like that. Go. I'm gonna flip over to be outwards. Bring it in. And release. And bring it in. Release. Shake it up a little bit. Bring it around your neck a little bit. I normally do it just like twice, just as means, but you can do it as much as you want. They're very simple to do. They're not as creepy to me as the ones where like people are telling you to like put your arm against a wall and pull or push, because there's ones like this or whatever, but for whatever reason that always freaks me out. So these are really good whenever I do them for offset. By the end of the week, I'm always feeling a lot better, but it's just important to take care of your body. Obviously you want to do the stretches and take time away from the computer, just because obviously it's not good to burn out and then have carpal tunnel. Oliver says if it's not hurting, it's not working, and that is not what I'm going for. Anyway, this has been Monkey Paws. And welcome back.
Good to be back.
Yeah.
The show is great. Did you make all these graphics?
Yes, I do. I'm a motion designer, so that's where I make my bread and butter. So these are all my little segments and stuff.
They're so clean and crisp and fun.
I literally just slapped something on a girl's face and said, previously seen on this live stream. And you're like, they're so clean.
Well, I thought that when the show started, like the loading screen was really nice.
Oh, thank you very much. It's my groovy James Bond intro. But cool. So, yeah, do you want to talk a little bit right before we hop into this of kind of how your presentations of comics came to be and how you have entered the world of taking comics and creating them into physical experiences?
Oh, sure. So I think my first comic reading was New Year's Eve of 2017. A bunch of Brooklyn like illustrators and comic artists were just putting together like a New Year's Eve party and invited people to read their work. And my friend Jensen Eckwall asked me if I wanted to, and I said sure, not really knowing what I was going to do. But I just read my Instagram comics. I kind of just did like a rapid fire run through of all of them over like 15 minutes. Or maybe not all of them, but I did like probably like 50 in that time. And it was really fun. And I think I learned things from it, and it taught me what works and what doesn't. And that I think that inspired me to do it more. And other people in Brooklyn, I think, feel the same way. There's a lot of different comic reading events going on now. Like you mentioned, Big Milk is one of them.
There's a new one coming up that I saw on Instagram. It's called like the Third Variation or something. The Third Place. It's like
Big Milk is actually becoming 2 different shows now, which I think is great because the community is hungry and they want more shows to go to.
They want more milk.
Yeah, one of them is Secret Third Thing, hosted by Sci Files, and the other one is Frog Farm, which is also like a publishing joint operation, hosted by Alexander Laird. Both are on Instagram. If people in Brooklyn and New York want to go to more comic events, I totally recommend looking up those.
You said Secret Third Thing and
Frog Farm.
And
there might be like periods and stuff, but I'm pretty sure if you just search it, it'll come up. Especially if you throw comics in there.
Right.
I'm also hosting my own show, but maybe
Are you really? When's that?
That's called Loud and Smart, same name as my comic series, and that'll be a mixture of comics, animation, PowerPoint presentations, and people just putting on a little show that's accompanied by visuals. The next show will be Friday, May 26th at the Rubalad. And I'm going to make a post about it in like the next day or two. So
it's coming right up. I mean, it's like a month away.
Yeah, it's about a month away. There is a lot to be done for it, but it's going to be a great show. We'll have Depths of Wikipedia, Jensen Eckwall, who I mentioned earlier, Lily Padula, and Brenny Stolberger. And the theme of the show is information. So if you want to learn anything and leave the event being smarter than you ever were before, I totally recommend grabbing a pre-sale ticket when they are up, because the show will most definitely sell out.
If you want a higher IQ, make sure that you're available on May 26th.
It's true.
Now, speaking of that, maybe we can increase our IQ today with this Western kind of presentation that you have for us. This might be a little bit of a sneak peek of what's to come, I guess, just the format. Do you want to hop into that?
Sure. This is, I'll share this and then I will talk about it and let it run.
And I'll also hop on into the saloon music.
Perfect.
Let's see if it plays.
Yeah, here we go.
You can hear that, right?
Yeah, I can hear it.
All right, cool.
Hope everyone can too.
All right.
All right.
The floor is yours.
Let's set this to full screen mode. Can you see that? Is it full? Oh, wait, this isn't it. I'll set it to read mode. Sorry. Okay. So this is called Little Sheriff. This is a one-off that I made for a live reading that I've never published online. So enjoy this exclusive experience. Little Sheriff. We're at the saloon. Vibe's good. You know, we got a new sheriff in town. Oh, yeah? Yeah. People around here have been calling him the Little Sheriff. There he is now. Clink. Clink. Hey, Little Sheriff! What are you gonna do about Big Bandit? Big Bandit is the reason we got such a high lawman turnover around here. The same thing happens every time. Big Bandit challenges them to a duel. The sheriff loses. And Big Bandit kills him. And then we get a new sheriff. Remember the last sheriff that Big Bandit challenged to a duel? It was arm wrestling. At high noon. Big Bandit won like he always does. And then he tied each of the sheriff's limbs to a horse and had them all run in separate directions. And the horses ripped him apart. And then he took each severed hand and foot and tied each finger and toe to a new set of smaller horses. And those ripped him apart again. Yeah, but remember the sheriff before that? Big Bandit challenged him to slackjaw after recess. You know that game you play in class where both players stare at each other with their mouths hung open and the first one to crack a smile loses? The poor sheriff just couldn't keep it together. Yeah. God damn it. And then Big Bandit grabbed him by the jaw and hoisted it up the flagpole. He never lost a game of slackjaw again, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, but remember the sheriff before that? Big Bandit said Fox only, no items, final destination at dawn. But the sheriff hadn't played Melee in like a really long time, and he forgot that the current buffered input system wasn't implemented until Brawl, and it threw off his muscle memory, and he was getting tilted, and then he lost. And then Big Bandit took a huge-ass bread knife and sawed the sheriff in half, like he was a hero roll. And then Big Bandit scooped out everything inside and put it on a grill and chopped it all up with like onions and bell peppers, and he topped it with a little bit of melted cheese and lettuce and tomato and pickled jalapeno and like some kind of sauce. It might have just been ketchup, I don't know. But dude, it was so bomb. It was really good. It was so good. I was so wasted walking back from the saloon that night, and I was so hungover when I woke up, and I didn't even remember putting the rest of the sandwich in the fridge, but I was so happy that I did. I just sat on the kitchen floor, eating it cold, and it was still so good. God. Jesus. Oh, hey! Big Bandit's here! I heard there's a new lawman in town. Clink. What are you gonna do, little sheriff? Clink. Clink. Bang! Hey! That little sheriff just killed Big Bandit! Weak, dude! Yeah, WTF! I really wanted to eat that little sheriff. That's the end. My handle changed. It's just my name.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Adam Ellis is saying we should all start wearing barrels as outfits again, which, again, I'm a little confused, but
No, we should bring them back.
bring it back.
Those used to be all the rage.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Where did that kind of start? Where did that come from? What was inspiration? Did you watch a bunch of Westerns or?
I think the inspiration for that was I made another film with the same crew of people that I made I Live Like This with, and I just wanted to make things that would be fun to animate, and we wound up going with a different idea that we finished, but I still like this one, and I thought it would translate well to a comic reading format. So at a Big Milk last year, I made this, and I just wanted to make like a stream of consciousness mess. And
speaking of stream of consciousness, where did some of the ideas of those torturous deaths come from, like the sandwich?
The sandwich is just me loving deli sandwiches.
You just being hungry while you're drawing.
Yeah, and I just wanted to do a walkthrough of things that I love to put on a chopped cheese. And
real thin sliced. That's a commonly viewed piece of your work. Is you had that in the animation as well, and then you also had the deli sandwiches in this one.
Yeah, I think that regardless if it's comics or animation, the art is just meant to Trojan horse me talking about sandwiches. And I think that people will listen to me for longer if there are like nice drawings and animation.
It would be great to have some sort of comic event where you have like ham and cheese sandwiches that coincide alongside your comics of some sort.
I've been talking about wanting to do a food pop-up at a comics event. Mm-hmm. And I haven't figured out the logistics of it yet because really beautifully printed books and messy sandwiches usually don't combine very well. But,
yeah, have a good point. Good point.
Yeah, but I want to figure it out.
Yeah.
I just want everything I like to be at one event.
And it'd also be interesting to see how grotesque you can also get, because it's if we zoom out, we also remember that Big Bandit was killing someone to make those sandwiches. So it would be weird to eat a sandwich and be like, oh, this could be cannibalism.
Yeah, I might be raising some eyebrows if everyone is familiar with all of my work.
Now, would you actually mind pulling that back up real quick? We can kind of flip through some of the panels, and we can talk a little bit about a bit of an idea of how they came to be.
Yeah. Let's see. We go to window, and then
because I really enjoyed a lot of kind of the zoom outs that you had, and the scene setting that you had with kind of like even the rolling of the whatchamacallit. Yeah, right there. That would be great too. Also with like the downtown.
Yeah. Where is it? Oh, here it is.
And now, is this just something that you kind of just pulled from the idea of what you thought of a old Western kind of town would look like? Did you do any research for this?
I think I did a Google image search for like saloon or like Western downtown, and I just saw some of the like motifs of like there being a porch with plank, that's not raised at all, or seeing like the little facade embellishments on the tops of buildings. So I just like threw those in there. It's on the screen for so short that I just needed like the symbol of a Western town being there, and I didn't really have to do a whole lot of like visual development.
Right. Now, I know that this kind of coincides with an idea almost of an animatic, because it's something that you, to your point, kind of cycle through so quickly. When you're sitting down and you're planning it, do you kind of draw it all out in sketches first and then kind of go back and create more of this? Or is this kind of like pen to paper, that's what you get for each slide, you kind of just doodle it once?
I think for this one, I think I drew this in like the whole thing in like a day or two.
Wow, really? Okay.
Like I think it was like either one really long day or like two like regular days. But I think it was 2 days. The first day I just did like a pass through over everything. Trying to find a good example. Like for this, I'm reusing a lot of like Big Bandit's body in this.
Okay.
So for the sketching part, I am just like copying and pasting a lot, and I will say like, okay, that's the drawing, and I just keep moving because I want to maintain momentum.
Right.
Especially for this one, these are obviously reused drawings, but you can see that all the line work is different.
So yeah, you're just tracing over top of it so that it's redrawn each time.
Yeah, because I think that when I change slides, there's like a little bit more like oomph or like power to the fact that the drawing changes. It makes it feel like it's alive and maybe it's like animating a little bit. Like here, you also see that Big Bandit's belly is like also changing again. So,
Big Bandit's belly.
yeah, that's for the alliteration fans out there.
Also, I like when Big Bandit is walking towards the camera, how you have the different characters kind of pop in for more visual interest and the idea of this kind of like closing in.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel like in these moments you draw more from comics or more from like cinematic experiences for creating this animation?
I definitely think of this comic as an animation that's just like not animated. So I guess this is like calling back to me like playing around between the two. Yeah, I think all of my timing in this is very much animation based and not comics based, because I think the difference is that in comics you're in charge of how, like, the reader is in charge of how long they look at everything, and usually it's way faster than the comic artist wants, because they'll be like, oh, I worked really hard on that background.
Yeah, you want to stay there for longer, but it doesn't really make sense to stay as long.
Yeah, and I think with animation, you, like, the creator is in charge of time, so you get to choose how long someone looks at it. So with comic readings, you have that same control, but you didn't have to draw as much. And I really like the medium for that reason, because I think like this clink part, I think it's funnier because like I'm making the viewer look at it for longer.
Yes.
As opposed to if this were a book, you would just be like, yeah, I get it. What happens next?
Right.
And me being in charge, I think, makes you care more.
Yeah, since you're in the driver's seat, you get to kind of dictate what everyone is kind of paying attention to and what they're staying on, what they're kind of moving forward, which makes, I think, public readings of comics so unique in the sense that, like, even more so than an animation, is like you're at a disadvantage today because you didn't get to hear the laughter of me because I muted. I didn't want that to be on the whole of the replay, but you can kind of land on things that kind of work with the audience, and you can continue that back and forth, which is a cool relationship you wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah, that's like really similar to how I think of it. I think that it gives comic artists the ability to be like filmmakers, like even if it's live.
Yeah.
Because they get to, they're kind of like creating an animatic in real time.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Obviously, you said that was only in like 2 days or so. Obviously, that can be a lot, which leads me to ask you, how do you deal with burnout? What do you do whenever you're feeling artistic block, when you are kind of hitting a wall, or you're kind of halfway through the project, but you know you need to get it done? Is there anything you do? Do you take a walk? Do you watch any certain TV? What do you do?
Out of curiosity, is the saloon music still playing?
I think the saloon music still is playing. We can switch over to maybe something like more lo-fi.
Well, I mean, I was just curious. I just love that we're like role playing as two surly cowboys in a bar right now.
As long as Big Bandit doesn't show up, we're fine.
I think with burnout, I guess this pertains more to like my stuff I put on my Instagram, like the 4-panel stuff. But I have like a text file in my phone. I could probably just like pull up here if it's interesting.
Yeah, sure.
That I have been adding to for probably like 5+ years now. Like it's just like a text file.
Wow.
And it's
Okay.
long. You can see like the bar on the left.
Yeah.
I have a lot. So if I'm hanging out with my friends, someone says something funny, I throw it in the text file. If I'm like taking a walk to go somewhere or just like as a break and I have an idea, I like throw it in the text file.
Mhm.
So in the future, when I'm idle and I have time and I want to draw a comic, I just like look at the text file and I just pull something from there because inspiration doesn't always strike when you have time.
Right.
So just have a place that's like easy for you to archive it so you can like return to it later. And that's been a strategy that's been working for me for like the last 5+ years. And sometimes if I have an idea for a longer form thing like Little Sheriff, I'll just like write down the idea, like like Saloon talking about different ways that a sheriff dies.
Right.
And then when I have like the downtime to like drink coffee and just like riff on like one idea, I'll do that because I think the writing process for Little Sheriff was like another day on top of those two, which was just like, you know, like tap away at a keyboard and brainstorming like different fun ways that a sheriff can be killed.
Brilliant. well articulated, and also the idea of just having that space to be able to reference and go back for inspiration is great. Also, obviously, pulling inspiration from other artists is a big deal, and I think that'd be a great time to talk about someone you brought up, which was Eleanor Davis. So Eleanor Davis is a artist from Tucson, Arizona. She was born in 1983. She's an American cartoonist and illustrator. She's somebody that you brought up when I asked where you draw inspiration from. I went ahead, I pulled up her website to just grab some, and I immediately was drawn towards these because they felt similar to yours, but with real people rather than animals. How long have you been following Eleanor, and what inspires your work from her work?
I started following Eleanor Davis, I think like around when I first got a Tumblr in like 2012. She like had a post-it note that she posted a post-it note drawing of like these two like curvy big lovers having an intimate moment. Like they were just like embracing, and that was very sweet. And followed the Tumblr and slowly discovered her on like the other platforms that allow for like longer form sharing of stuff, and I just fell in love with it. She's like so good at depicting intimacy and depicting like tenderness. Either if it's just, you know, like a little slice of life thing like this. There's so much like character and like nuance to like how these people are depicted. I know this was, I think this was a commission for the New York Times. I'm not a scholar.
Yep, they're New York Times, yeah.
But yeah, she's just like really good at just depicting like nuance and how people behave. She's often funny. She's often like depicts tragedy in a way that like I find like I really admire, and I don't think that my drawings are as like rich in detail as hers, but I think about character acting. I try to be as like attentive to it as she is, but she's the best. I don't know. Whenever she is at like a comic convention, I just like go up and I just say, I love the thing that you posted recently. Like, I'm so content just being a fan, and I just like buy whatever she has on the table, and then I like read it on like the bus ride home or whatever.
Yeah, and it's cool to see. The two of you also really approach, I think, anatomy in a similar way, of the idea that like it's mostly realistic, but then also you're totally comfortable with just completely bending and moving around different types of like not realistic body forms. Even if they're kind of like crammed into an area. I feel like that's sometimes I see it in yours as well, where it's like you trust the viewer enough to go along the ride with you, which is nice.
Yeah, I feel like with her work, and I don't know if she'd agree, but maybe I feel like composition comes first before anatomy.
Yeah.
Like you decide the shape that you want like the picture or the form to be, and then you like figure out how like the limbs are gonna like fit in it.
Right. And she also has these really intricate details. I mean, obviously, to your point,
good.
like with this anatomy kind of going on up here, like it doesn't necessarily track with everything else, but the composition is fascinating enough that it really carries the piece. And then, you trust the viewer pretty much.
Yeah, the composition is like so considered. Like it's so hard to like, I don't know, have all these things harmoniously like fit together, and she somehow does it.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you found her through Tumblr days, which obviously is a blast of the past. But we like to look back at artists and show how we went from this to that.
From this to that.
You were kind enough to send over both not only your Tumblr, but even a pre-Tumblr, which is absolutely insane. And we have a snippet from your Blogspot, which, believe it or not, you can still draw some pretty similar, one-to-ones. This is, I think, from 2012, and it is a elephant, which I don't see you draw much anymore. And the weird thing about this one is that it is mixed with a human, which you don't always normally see. How do you feel like your work still relates to this? What do you feel like still is present? I guess we'll start with that. Yeah. How do you feel it still works to your work?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest difference here is just aesthetic. I think the core is really similar. That's my human Sona. If anyone didn't know, I'm a human being.
Not just a raccoon.
Yeah. That, I guess this is like an inside joke bit that I have with myself that I started when I was like in summer camp as a preteen. So it was a decade before this, where my subconscious, I guess just like my inner self was like an elephant for some reason. It was like a thoughtless decision, and I would vent to myself either about a hard time I was having or that I'm having like the best time of my life, and my elephant self just wouldn't care at all. So this is one where I'm talking about how I'm like really starting to like find myself, and I'm like thriving as I reach the end of like my art school education, and my elephant self like doesn't care. He's like cooking, and for some reason I put him on a 6-burner stove. I don't know what I was thinking with that. I started cooking at that time. I should have known better. But
you don't relate enough to 6-burner.
No.
I don't live that luxurious lifestyle. What's that? I guess another thing that I'm also seeing in a contrast between the two is your approach to type and lettering. How do you do it now? Do you just do it fully by hand, or do you kind of give yourself structure when you're doing the lettering for your comics?
I have more structure now. This was definitely me just writing raw on the page.
Yeah.
And what I do now is I will draft it out in Photoshop, and I will just like sketch it out lightly with like a few layers, and then I will lay out text as a font. But the font is based on my writing. Like I made a font of my own writing to try and keep it accurate, but it's still not really, because like the kerning and the spacing between everything is like very like automated.
Right.
And when I'm handwriting it myself, there's like imperfections all over the place. like an E will look different from another E, and they'll maybe be a little bit closer together than another one. And yeah, so that changed a lot. I think it's much more of a production now.
Yeah. And I think that's all part of just learning. And the more that you do it, the more you can find a process that works for you. I think that legibility has definitely increased. And you don't think it so much as like you are the one behind the pen as much as they just kind of exist on the page. And it's nice to see that you're also kind of experimenting more with bringing that digital and physical together to work and complement each other. Annika wants to know, what did Alex use to create the font?
I should know, but I think it was as simple as me like Googling create your own font, and I used one of like the sites at the top that had like decent reviews. I paid $10 for it, and I've been using it for years, and I think it's a very justifiable purchase. They like give you a template, and you can either print it out and like draw every layer on the template and then scan it and then submit that, and then they will like generate the font for you, or you can like pull the template into like Photoshop or something and just like draw it with a stylus. And I'm pretty sure I just drew with the stylus because I'm very comfortable with that. But it's really open-ended. You have a lot of options, and you could do it for $10 or maybe even free at this point. This is something I did several years ago.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of resources that you can now kind of hop into, and they can work. There's one other one that I want to see. It's when you were doing your band Wood Spider, and it's this Spider Arts Collective. Now, did you do all of these illustrations?
Yes, I did all of these. These like book illustrations were for my senior thesis. I made a children's book.
And this was 2012, right?
This is in 2012, if I must date myself. Yeah, this was my senior project. It was called Mathos, and it was about a boy who is trying to discover the meaning in art. It's all very contrived. It was definitely someone who was graduating art school and like thought about art full time.
Right.
He had a cow friend named Cow, or no, the Cow. Sorry, it was more proper. And
Cow was his father.
Yeah, the cow just like appreciated everything for what it was, and Mathos was plagued with what it meant, though. So Mathos would see the scholar, who was like this librarian, who said that in order to appreciate art, you must be informed and know everything. And he would see the artist, who was like, you must try to make everything, and then would go, would just like hop around talking to like different authorities on what art is. And yeah, once, like I said, this was clearly from someone who had his head broken in half just thinking about art for like the last 4 years. So I think that it was a good thing for me to make, but yeah, it's hella contrived.
But I think it really brings to light kind of your ability to also work in other styles. I think it's really cool to see you work in a different medium too. Like, I guess this is this is graphite, or is this
this is all charcoal.
This is charcoal, okay.
Which I think is also referential to art school in and of itself.
Yes.
Because everyone's first year leaves them just like dirty and smudged with like exclusively using Vine charcoal in every class. So
yeah, but I have a soft spot for charcoal. I think that it can really make beautiful pieces, and this is just a really nice approach. Obviously, I think you use charcoal sometimes in your comics, but this is in a way that I've never seen you kind of use it before, and it's interesting to see.
Thanks. Yeah, this was also kind of like a love letter to The Little Prince.
Yeah.
Which I think I only was introduced to in in college, because
Okay.
like in college you like meet other artists, and every artist talks about like the one thing that they were like obsessed with when they were growing up, and that was like a colleague's inspiration. And then I read it and I was like, yo, this is fire.
Right.
It's like it was really inspiring, so I kind of wanted to make my own version of it.
Great. Well, thank you for letting us look into your past. One thing you did bring up is obviously things that artists are very interested in. We only have a few minutes left, but I would love to see some things that you collect.
Could I see your collection?
So you have a little stack of zines behind you there. What is it that you collect, and why do you collect it?
So as someone who lives in New York City, I try and downsize my possessions every single year. But the one thing that I can't let go of is my collection of copyright-free illustration collections. I have like dozens of these, but I thought I would bring my favorite to show on the stream. My favorite publisher is Dover, which they just put out paperback collections of just like black and white illustrations that I love. This is one that's just like Art Nouveau designs that you can use for whatever you want. And I never like take the designs like just like by scanning it, but I'll look at one and be like, oh, that's a really nice border. I can use that for something. Or look at this like lady like creeping on the river. Like I bet I can like make like a patch design with that or something.
Also, use the black and white. I feel like really aligns a lot with sometimes how you frame your comics, and you call things out with big swatches of black.
Oh yeah, like I think that I was afraid of color for a really long time because it just seemed, I don't know, just like a lot to deal with, and it's only been recently that I started to experiment more. But when I was in that band Wood Spider, I would make tour flyers or show posters or like band merch, and I just wanted like sick imagery.
Yeah.
So I would pull
real
from
quick.
these
What
a
did you
lot.
play, or were you vocals?
I was vocals, songwriting, and I played ukulele and the glockenspiel. If I really wanted to make it apparent that I'm a cartoonist.
Right on.
Some other fave books are The Illustrations of Rockwell Kent. He's like an old book illustrator who did illustrations for Moby Dick that I really like. But he does similar stuff. Just like cool etching style pen and ink drawings that aren't really etchings, and they're this own thing. John Sloan, New York etchings, beautiful slices of life from like turn of the century 1900s New York. Recommend this. Conrad Gesner, like a medieval artist who just did like crazy kind of accurate woodcuts of animals.
There's always with medieval stuff, it's always just like almost there, and then it's like, yeah, like what's going on there?
Yeah, it's because like they weren't there for it. There's like an explorer that comes and is like, yo, I saw the craziest thing. It's like a swan, but it's got like crazy legs. And then like Conrad's like, don't worry, I got you. And then he like makes this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It looks like an intestines for a bird. That was pretty gross.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool. Yeah, I don't know what this like pig fish is, but someone saw it and like told him like, yeah, it looked just like that. Yeah, I'm sure it did.
It's like criminal sketches, like when they're like trying to describe a suspect.
Yeah, last one I'll share is the first book that I ever got, and it was when I was in high school working at Barnes and Noble. I feel like a lot of people have this book. This is just a collection of copyright-free illustrations of different animals. Surprise, surprise! And I really liked it. And there's just like beautiful etchings of like different animals that are like very rich in detail. It's organized by like class. And they're just pulled from like advertising and like natural illustration. And yeah, that was the first one I found, and it inspired me to just like start collecting them. And I have several dozen of these books, and continue to collect them. Even if I don't use them as reference as much anymore, I just like them. They're pleasing to look at.
Right. And anything that gets your inspiration going too is obviously a good investment. Well, thank you for sharing your collection with us. We are just about at time for the show, and thank you again for coming on the show. I do want to turn to the audience real quick. We have about 2 minutes left. Was there any questions that anyone had? And while we're waiting for them to type out any questions, can you just remind us where the show is on May 26th?
Oh yeah, the show is called Loud and Smart. It's going to be at the Rubalade in Brooklyn, Friday, May 26th. I'm going to post a flyer for it on Instagram and Twitter in like the next 2 days. There will be pre-sale tickets and a bunch of other artists that you will love if you don't already. So keep your eyes peeled for that. My handle's in the corner, which Ryan has very kindly included.
And then is there anything else that you are working on and have coming up that you want to share? It's okay if not. Like, just keep an eye on your account for comics.
Yeah, you can look at my Instagram for comics that I put out. I'm working on a book. It's a memoir about my relationship with my father called My Father's Ghost. It'll be published by Chronicle Books in 2025.
Wow, book projections are always so long.
I know. And as someone who mostly posts on the internet, it's giving me whiplash.
Right.
I'm used to immediate gratification, and this is probably healthy for me to slow my pace down a little bit.
Great. Well, we look forward to checking that out. But thank you again for coming on the show. Looking forward to seeing you next month. And we'll all make sure that we keep a good eye on your social accounts. Everyone, please give them a follow. Thank you to everyone that said hello in the chat. Thank you to Annika for putting the links in there. And we'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, I cut you off. Say again.
I had a great time.
Oh, yeah. I want to make sure people heard it. All right. Thanks again. All right, guys. I'll be back in about 5 minutes with Jonah Loeb. So stay tuned here on Adobe Live for another episode of Offset. Thank you again to Alex for joining us. And you guys can watch the full replay if you missed the beginning or anything. It'll be on YouTube and Behance. So just check it out. And I'll talk to you guys all real soon. Thanks for watching.